You're listening to the 300s Podcast.
What, 16 years? You want to say the competition has not been great for 16 years? That's not a dry spell. That's the f***ing league. That's how much better the Patriots just are.
You know, there's a lot of hyperbole thrown out there with Belichick, but he's just a guy. He knows every situation. He is like the professional blackjack player that knows to double on a soft 15 when the dealer's showing a 4. He has just memorized the chart, and he knows what to do.
He's the worst firefighter in all of New York, and we f***ing killed him at the butt fumble.
The Sunday that we went to the Brewers game was the most banged up I was the entire trip.
Yeah, Twitter can be a cesspool.
And then the arena football team folded, and now they were left with this bastard dragon.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the 300s Podcast. This is Red. I'm here with Rick. How's it going over there, Rick?
A little wiped out. NCAA tournament weekend, St. Patrick's Day weekend, bracket busted, spirit crushed, and now I have to make up for 3,000 calorie days, 5,000 calorie days, 4 days in a row. So it's a tough week. But it might be a good week for giving things up for Lent. I mean, I need a couple of 1,500 calorie days here. So, you know, got to start a winning streak.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had their tax refunds already came and gone with the NCAA tournament. So I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people are waiting for April again next year. And I don't know about you. I know a friend of mine was actually literally just bailing on work Friday, and he just sent out an email, one of the guys from my softball team, and said, "Hey guys, game start at noon, so come over whenever." I'm like, I have a job, I have work, I can't show up at noon.
I took Thursday off, so I did take Thursday and Friday off, and I'm out here in the Central Time Zone, so these games start at 11 a.m., so I can't get to the gym before that. It's just too early, right? That's not my fault. That's time zones. And so you're starting early, and I didn't start drinking at 11 a.m. That's a little too early. Noon at Game On at Fenway, different story. But, those games start at 11. It doesn't matter if you start at 11 or at noon. That's 12 hours straight of basketball. And, I love the NCAA tournament probably more than just about anyone we know. And with Duke going down in flames Sunday night, I was watching It Was Always Sunny in Philadelphia on Netflix. I had enough at that point.
Yeah, I know you were getting after it. You had a really good run to start, didn't you?
So I'm not one of these guys that has 10 brackets, but I get 2. I pick Duke in one, I pick Arizona in the other. You have a soft landing spot if something doesn't fall through. So thankfully it was the bracket pool I picked Arizona in. I ripped off the first 21 games of the tournament, and I am known for having excellent first days. I went 31-1 in the first round. The problem is I went 9 out of 16 in the second round. So, I'm the classic guy. I can see the first round matchup, and I can't name most of the players, but the coaches, the teams, the histories. You can just kind of get a feel for it. And, I had Rhode Island because I'm a New England guy. I watched the A-10 tournament. I had a couple of the other upsets out here in Minnesota. I knew that team wasn't going far, so I had Middle Tennessee. But once you start getting into those second rounds, those kind of mythological matchups, Duke's going to play South Carolina. How's that going to work out? One thing I got to say I'm pissed at myself over. I look at the location of these games. Baylor last year got upset by Yale, and I had that because that game was in Providence. Some big school from Texas is going to travel to Providence on spring break to play in the tournament. That can't end well. But when it gets to the second round, it's harder to call it. But again, I should have looked at where the game was playing. North Carolina was in that South Carolina region. So the Tar Heel fans were still there. South Carolina was playing 100 miles from campus. That arena was a South Carolina home game. I just wish I'd put a little bit more thought into that. But that's the thing. The more thought you put into it, you talk yourself out of stuff. It's impossible. And, it doesn't help that one of the guys in my office had South Carolina and Wisconsin in that region and is basically in the top 1% nationally.
Yeah, and, going to the brackets, I've never been a huge March Madness guy, mainly just because I find it hard to get into college basketball when all the best players are gone after 6 months.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I obviously will watch the bigger games. It helps with the Celtics probably having a top, 2 or 3 pick. So that way, I kind of say, all right, well, let me watch Lonzo Ball's games, stuff like that. But there's just so many friggin' teams. I mean, how many do they have now? What are they? Is it 64 64, 68. What the hell is it now?
The tournament's officially at 68, so the tournament hasn't blown up as much as it could have, or as much as people like Jim Boeheim wanted it to. But I don't recall the last number of D1 teams, but it's up near 350 now. So I was doing the math earlier today, and there are 32 conferences that play Division I basketball, and each team, their conference tournament champion, Ivy League now has a tournament, conference champion, or the tournament champion from each conference gets an automatic bid, and then of course they fill out the rest of the tournament with the at-large bids. Out of those 32 conferences, 23 only put one team in. So you could be forgiven for not knowing that Northern Kentucky was in the Horizon League or things like that.
Yeah, and speaking of Jim Boeheim, he can kick rocks. He is one of these assholes who, we're a good team. We've been around. We've won, decent amount of games, and just expects to get into the tournament. And I know they had some big wins, but I think they were one of the worst teams as far as playing, competition outside of the top 50. They lost a bunch of shitty games they shouldn't have won. They shouldn't have lost.
One of the big criticisms of Boeheim is they don't leave Central New York until January. They just have sheep come to the slaughterhouse at the Carrier Dome until January. Schedule's a weak non-conference schedule, and you kind of saw it with the ACC this year. They got a lot of good teams, but those good teams in that conference kind of inflate the RPI. They got a bunch of teams in the tournament, and they only have one team left.
Yeah, and I know they lost a bunch of games down the stretch too, so you can't, start off hot and then finish completely cold, not win the tournament, and then expect to just get in. Like, that's not how it works. It was hilarious, though. I was at the bar the other night watching the NIT tournament, and just the complete lack of any kind of giving a shit of wanting to be there. Boeheim looked like he was already out the door. The players were just throwing up fucking brick after brick. The NIT is where, it's Syracuse is probably the most popular team that's been there in a long time. So that was pretty fun to watch them just be completely bullshit of having to play in the tournament.
Indiana declined to host a home game.
Yeah, too big for the NIT. I mean, that's where schools like mine play.
It's too bad because the NIT does have a lot of history. It preceded the NCAA tournament by a year. Teams, even as late as I think the 60s and early 70s, would choose to play that tournament over the NCAA tournament. It was a good tournament. It had some history, but I think at this point, maybe it would be better served saying, all right, the collegeinsider.com tournament, you've served your purpose. College Basketball Invitational, you've served your purpose. From now on, the NIT is only going to be mid-major teams. If you're from one of those conferences that only gets one bid, like the bottom 23, maybe the NIT should just be that. That way a chance like a Quinnipiac gets a chance to play at Madison Square Garden or, not Vermont, Stony Brook. One of these lower level schools that, is not going to make it to the Final Four in the next couple of years, to put it nicely.
Hey, we got QU women tonight in the second round, so you never know.
But, just a strange tournament. It's tough. I mean, all these experts on TV taking the ones and the twos, even the experts don't know what they're talking about. So when Mike Francesa loses all four of his Final Four teams in one weekend, it's tough to hate on the guy.
I think Francesa might legitimately know less than all of us combined. I heard he was reading through the brackets, not even knowing who half the teams were, live on the air while getting paid millions of dollars to know about sports.
I wouldn't do that on a college radio station.
Yeah, it's like the old school guys that literally just reading the newspaper on air. I know with my bracket, I tried to go outside the box and just, take a shot in the dark that I'll be one of the few guys to pick it if they get there. I had Oregon over Duke, not a popular matchup. I know Oregon's still kicking, but Duke going out last night kind of screwed me over and blew that up. So I will be back to not giving a shit.
Yeah, like I said, I got two brackets. I'm not one of these guys that does 10, but even when I went 31-1 in the first round, I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. If your champion doesn't at least make it to the championship game, it does not matter because those first round games are worth so little in the scheme of things. So, the pool I went 31-1, and I do have Arizona still kicking, but the other pool I had Duke, and it's why bother? Why bother? I don't have a paper bracket anymore. I rip both of them up Sunday night and watch another episode of It's Always Sunny. I'll still watch the rest of the tournament. I do want to see how some of these teams do. The Big Ten had a really good weekend. The Big Ten, everyone's saying, oh, Big Ten, weak year, no seeds higher than 4. Well, they got 3 teams in the Sweet 16. And that Michigan team, I didn't have a lot of faith in them, but they're starting to remind me of that Connecticut team in 2011. Conference champions should probably scare you going into the tournament. They don't have a great track record lately, but maybe those, not bubble teams, but maybe those teams that really have to kick ass to win their conference tournament, like a Michigan this year or Connecticut that year, maybe those are the conference champions you should circle.
Yeah, we'll see. Best of luck to you. Sounds like you had a much better start than I did. So,
Well, and the only other thing I've got, one of the other restaurants I go to, I pulled Kentucky out of that. So if Kentucky goes deep, maybe I'll win a gift card. But we're playing for gift cards at this point, unfortunately.
It's better than betting the house down payment.
It's a plate of chicken fingers with waffle fries.
All right.
Ranch, an extra 50 cents.
So one of the other things I want to talk about came up today. I actually had a blog post on it talking about the Red Sox rotation. And basically, something that kind of just came to mind for me is there any way the Red Sox can trade a starting pitcher out of their rotation without having it immediately blow up in their face? Because I pretty much was having flashbacks of 06 today thinking about it, with the recent news of David Price's injury, where, he's saying there's no structural damage, there's, no need for concern, but, the guy still hasn't made a start. He's probably going to start the season on the DL. And, looking at what happened with Carson Smith last year would not surprise me if they say, in May, or June, actually, his elbow's fucked, sorry, we got to get Tommy John, and then he's out for a season and a half.
When did the Red Sox training staff turn into the Celtics training staff? Oh, no, Shaq's fine. Shaq's going to be back anytime now. Or even KG in 2010, that knee or 2009, I think, their title defense kind of cost them a trip back to the finals because, he was on the shelf. The Red Sox go from using cadavers to figure out how to fix Schilling's ankle in 36 hours to they don't know what's going on with anybody's elbows. Schilling, like I said, he went from getting his ankle fixed in 36 hours to go out there and kick ass in the playoffs to being told, nope, your shoulder will be fine, let it heal. And then in the middle of the season, he realizes it's too late and he's retired.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure a couple years ago, the Sox canned a bunch of guys in the medical staff after all the shit with Jacoby Ellsbury. Remember that? They were saying,
yep.
Oh yeah, your ribs are fine, you just need to let it heal. And basically they were not fine. There was hairline fractures in the ribs. So they basically just made him look like a big puss when really he had a serious injury, and that's why he missed the entire season.
Well, in Ellsbury's case, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean people aren't out to get you.
Yeah, he was not exactly the Iron Man, but my point remains. So with David Price, I'm still worried about him. He came out and had a very Donald Trump-esque quote saying he had a very unique elbow. All I could picture is just Trump being I have a very unique elbow. It's the best elbow.
Many people have said.
Nobody has a better elbow than me. So shit like that.
Me.
shit like that has me worried. And then same thing with Pomerantz. So Pomerantz, he got pulled early in a start in spring training the other day because he had tightness in his tricep, I believe. And they said recently that, it was nothing. He's going to make his next start this week. And this is the same guy that was having injury issues last year, getting pulled for tightness in his forearm. And they actually gave him injections over the winter. And that was only a couple months ago. And now he's getting tightness again. They're saying it's not related, but shit like that doesn't just happen to healthy guys.
Yeah, it is disappointing. And the thing is, the Red Sox really can't go out and get anyone else.
Because they have no prospects.
Yeah, when Dombrowski came to town, you can't get mad at the guy because the guy is who he is, and you knew that coming in. Hey, I'm Dave Dombrowski. Let's win now. I'm going to trade everybody, and we'll win a shit ton in 2 years. And when it blows up in 8 years, I'll be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, you knew that is the guy's MO, so you can't get mad at him. And I can't even say it upsets me because I always would trade the prospects, but. You got a guy here now that's making video game trades left and right, and there's really nothing left. So if Pomerantz is down for a little bit, if Price is down for a little bit, yeah, you're going to have 2 Cy Young candidates at the top of your rotation. Then you're going to have people like Henry Owens, and you're going to have 4A guys.
Yeah, so I didn't have a problem with a lot of the early trades that Dombrowski was making. Like, remember when he traded 4 prospects to get Craig Kimbrell? Because coming in, you knew that that was his MO. He trades prospects to win now. So I didn't really have a problem with that. But the Pomeranz trade, that kind of annoyed me. And I know you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past where, trading Espinosa, their top prospect at the time, or their top pitching prospect at the time, for
I think
Pomeranz.
Pedro Martinez, I think he's also known as.
Yeah, he's the next Pedro. He's baby Pedro. But I know what I always say is I don't give a shit about Espinosa. The guy could be great. He could suck. I have no idea. He's 19 years old. My point is you traded our best pitching prospect, our best trade chip, for a guy who now is our 5th starter / bullpen guy with injury concerns. You traded the best chip you had for that shit bomb. I'm just saying, I don't know what Espinosa is going to be, but I feel like you could have gotten a lot more for it. And
Yeah.
to really top it off, he had injury concerns, and then it came out that the Padres are basically trying to hose the Sox by not properly disclosing medical records. So much so that the MLB stepped in and offered to rescind the trade. Like, that never happens. Not to mention the guy had sucked up until that point. So MLB said, all right, yeah, you can just reverse the trade. We'll give you back Espinosa. And Dombrowski declined. And I understand people saying, like, oh, well, you can't just take a guy out of the rotation down the stretch for a playoff hunt. But, if you show a top prospect the door for some guy who's going to be your 5th starter / long man with injury issues, and you turn down the offer to, get out of jail free card just out of pride, then you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll say about that trade is, you're trading for a guy who is in his 5th or 6th year, posting a career high in almost every category, including starts and innings. And, the Red Sox definitely paid a high price. And, Dombrowski is like the poker player that's going all in on every hand. And, he wins on a lot of them. That trade with Detroit, I always say to people, do you remember who he gave up for Miguel Cabrera? Nah, I didn't think so. So that's why I don't have a problem with these trades. But, if you're going in on every hand, eventually you're going all in on a pair of twos. And it's not going to end up great. But, they're trying to win. They're trying to win now. The other thing I'm not too pleased with is the manager saying, oh, we'll pinch run a pitcher again next year if the situation is right. Have you learned anything?
Yeah, so
The guy doesn't even know how to execute a double switch, it seems.
Yeah, so this is giving me flashbacks of '06, though. I mean, that was the last time they traded out of a position of strength, it seemed. They had, a lot of depth in the starting rotation, so they dealt Bronson Arroyo for Willie Mo Pena. And that pretty much immediately came back to bite him in the ass. Remember, David Wells ended up starting the year in the DL. He missed some time. They only had 2 guys that year top 140 innings, which was Schilling and Beckett. So they had bums like, remember David Pauly getting starts? Yep. How about Lenny DiNardo from Team Italy? He made 6 starts that year. So that's what I'm worried about this year. I'm worried about Henry Owens getting 20 starts with like a 7 ERA. So they're going to have to do a little digging on the scrap heap.
Yeah, because they're going to have to keep trotting people out there. It's going to look like the old days where Wakefield's going out there getting bounced in the 4th inning every 5th day. But you need the arms. So, and the other thing is, at least in the past, maybe not last year, but, for a while you could say, well, the Red Sox, they have a great offense. They'll figure something out. With Ortiz retiring, I mean, you better pray that the big panda, Kung Fu Panda, has been eating his Wheaties and eating his egg whites and, is on the straight and narrow, because if that guy comes back and is not putting up halfway decent numbers and Pedroia is another year older, you could have the best outfield you've had in 40 years. But, if you're falling apart in the other spots, it could get late early.
Yeah, and that's the problem where you trade those prospects to, get some of these top guys, but then when a couple guys get hurt, you don't have any depth. So it's kind of ironic. I'm worried this season might be hanging on a thread already, and it's not even April yet. But this season, ironically, after how many prospects he traded, might start hinging on some prospects. Like, you're going to need a big year from Benintendi. If Pablo shits the bed again at third, you're going to need maybe Sam Travis to step up a year early. So there's a lot of maybes and ifs with this team, and it just reminds me way too much of '06 when they totally sucked and missed the playoffs. So we'll see with that one. And I know another thing we want to talk about. Tom Brady's Super Bowl 51 jersey was missing, and that was an interesting scenario because very rarely they had a video of him going through his bag, kind of pissed off, looking for it, and he was shocked. Like, how do you get into Tom Brady's locker and steal his shit without anyone noticing, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, if you're a sports reporter of a professional team, yeah, there is locker room access, but there is camera access as well. That's professional sports. They're doing interviews in the locker room. And so in this day and age, everyone has a camera on their phone in their pocket. It's just, how did you think you're going to get away with it? And apparently the guy did it 2 years ago too, which is even stranger.
And that was weird because I heard that. That was the first I'd heard of it. I didn't know that he had his jersey from that game stolen too. Did I miss that, or was that just not really reported?
I had not heard that until today myself.
And that's weird. So that seems like probably the first time they were concerned. Maybe it just got lost. Maybe there was a screw up. I think when it happened again, they said, no, someone's stealing this shit. And I know we were talking about it. It broke today. Jay Glazer was on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, who, by the way, has great hair plugs going. trying to look 22 when he's 50. But Jay Glazer was on today and basically broke the story that they found the guy who stole the jersey. They have this moron on tape because, as you said, there's cameras everywhere. So the video that Glazer is showing is literally just excerpts cut from the FS1 feed from after the Super Bowl. It's this Mexican reporter from whatever channel he works for walking in and walking out later with something else under his arm. So they tracked this guy down. It was like some Criminal Minds shit.
Yeah, it makes me wish that Law and Order was still on TV because this would be a great Law and Order episode. You send Briscoe and Logan down to Mexico to do some research, throw some guy up against a fence, driving around your old 95 Cadillac DeVille's trying to hunt this guy down. It is some weird stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it makes sense that it was taken out of the country because I don't know how something like that could circulate in this country without it being brought to the authorities' attention. So, that's some black market stuff there.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things. If I stole it, it would just be like die with a lie. Where are you going to sell that?
Well, the only guy you could probably go to Gus Fring and do some business with him. But yeah, it's that deep level shit. You're not going into that pawn shop on Harvard Avenue in Alston saying, "Hey, what can you give me for a Brady jersey?" It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, you got to sell that on like the dark web, maybe on Silk Road for a few Bitcoin. You're not going to get straight up cash for that in the United States.
And here's the other thing. If you're not a Patriots fan and you've got that in your possession, if you're a Patriots fan, I'm not saying you should do it, but at least if that's in my living room, I know it's there. That provides me some benefit. But if you're just some dude trying to make a buck, I don't see how that's going to work. And we'll see what happens to this guy.
I feel like they're going to put him over the coals because now they were saying the FBI was involved because it was quote unquote like an international incident. So
sure.
I mean, the guy's definitely not going to be covering any more games. I'll tell you that. All right, so one more topic I know we wanted to cover today, something that came out, I think today, and I wrote a blog post on it. So it came out that Rondo and the 2008 Celtics, 2007, 2008, whatever you want to call it, are planning a celebration of the 08 title. And, kind of like how the Red Sox did it, they're going to do like a 9-year anniversary, which is weird, but I digress on that. So
10th anniversary at the start of the season.
Yeah, exactly. So they're talking about doing a celebration, getting the whole entire team together, getting everyone who was on the squad, Leon Poe, PJ Brown, Eddie House, all the scrubs, everyone except for Ray Allen. Now, I love a good grudge. So, as you know, Ray Allen was on the team, won the title. He was pivotal of that title team when we got back to the finals, doing battle with the Heat for years. And then Ray up and joined the Heat to help them win a ring. And these guys have never forgiven them, especially Rajon. He wants the guy dead. It's been 5 years. He still is bullshit, and I love it.
I like it too. Everybody's been in a group of friends in high school or college that's kind of splintered off, and you're going to be team Rondo or team Allen, and it almost seems like Ray Allen didn't get it. Hey, why is everyone mad at me? I'm just trying to do what's best for me. And Rondo is the guy you want in your group. Rondo is the asshole. He's the enforcer, so you don't have to be. You know you're right, but Rondo will make sure that everyone else knows you're right, too.
Yeah, and I actually find it kind of refreshing because everyone in the NBA is best friends now. And I tell you, it's the AAU generation. All these guys grew up playing on teams together, and then now that they're in the league, they all want to be buddies and they all want to play together, and they all, at best, publicly opine about how they want to play with their buds. Or at worst, like Miami, just massively collude to get everyone together in one summer. So, to have a little bit of venom, a guy that still holds a good grudge, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the Red Sox. Damon left that team year after '04. He played 2005, but then he goes to the Yankees and helps them win a World Series in 2009. Manny quits on the team in 2008 and just throws the traveling secretary down a flight of stairs or something like that. And they welcome all those guys back as if nothing ever happened. And I guess it makes good TV, but I like the Celtics approach better.
Yeah, and I think something that's a little bit different, with baseball compared to basketball is, the baseball, it's, 25 to 50 guys. Basketball, really, there's only 10 guys that you need to know.
True.
And I remember hearing a story that Ray was always a little distant with the teammates, but there was a story that he actually was like the only guy to not show up to teammates' charity events, just like a total asshole. So, there's 9 other guys that you got to be friends with, and it sounds like Ray just kind of, wasn't for it, and which was weird because I remember pretty much right off the bat, they were all tight. And even now, Pierce and Garnett, they're still boys. They're like college roommates. They're still best buds. And Allen just seems like he was never really in that circle of trust.
Yeah, and I was reading something not too long ago. Reggie Miller is doing the games on TV for the NCAA tournament. There was a possibility that Reggie Miller was going to join that Celtics team in 2007. Wouldn't have that been something?
Yeah, and I mean, it worked out for Ray. He, as we all remember, single-handedly handed LeBron another ring by hitting that corner 3 in Game 6. I remember you and I were watching that at the bar. I turned to you and said, Ray Allen just won LeBron James a ring. And they still had to win in overtime and win Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, you can be as good as you want, but you still need help to win, so I won't hold that against LeBron. Michael didn't win until he got Scottie Pippen, although I will say this about Michael. Scottie Pippen is the only guy that was on each set of those three-peats, but, I'll give Allen credit. I won't take credit away from LeBron for that one, but, good for Rondo, good for Garnett. Hey, we tried to stick it out. We tried to keep the band together as long as possible. You want to go be Yoko Ono, that's fine, but, we're not having a reunion tour.
Yeah, and I don't think the Celtics were going to win. I think once they lost that Game 6 to the Heat, what was that, 2012? It was the last season they were together, or the 2011-2012 season. Once they lost that to LeBron, they were never going to get over that hump. They just didn't have enough left. But I think with Allen going to that blood rival, those guys that you guys fought for years, especially a guy in LeBron that Pierce and KG do not like, to just go to the rival like that. And basically, it sounded like he kind of just up and left. He didn't really say, hey, I'm thinking of going. He just was like, all right, fuck this, I'm out. I think that's what pisses them off the most, to go to your direct rival, help the guy you've been scrapping with, especially Pierce, for 10 years, and help him win a ring to beat you guys. I feel like that's just, that's stuff that they're never going to forgive. And,
move of a mercenary.
Yeah, and if you remember, when Ray Allen first came back as a member of the Heat, he goes up to everyone, he's dapping all the coaches, and he goes to dap up KG, and KG basically tells him to piss up a rope, doesn't even acknowledge the guy, and just ignored him. And that, I think, right there was just like, you're dead to us. It's a shame they never won another one. They should have won 2, if not 3. I know we talked about it a few minutes ago. KG's injury, and what was that, 2008-2009 season?
Yeah.
They got bounced in the playoffs. They just didn't have enough. And then 2010, I'll never forget that shit. I will forever hate Rasheed Wallace being an out-of-shape bum, gassed running up and down the court, just jacking bricks. And also Kendrick being hurt that game as well.
That was before I had an iPhone. I was on a bus trip that day, and I was just texting Google. You could text Google for the scores at that time because I wasn't in radio reception. And I was just texting Google for the score every 2 minutes. And, that was a slow bleed, blowing that fourth quarter lead. But, they definitely, they probably should have won more. You could say that about Larry Bird, Bobby Orr, too. But in a way, it almost looks lucky that they got that first one, because a lot of people are saying, hey, it's going to take some time for this team to gel. And so they're lucky they got it that first year because, yeah, we knew the window was going to be short, but I don't think we had any idea it would be that short. Of course, again, they tried to make that run in 2012, but yeah, it's a good thing they won it that first year.
I wouldn't say it was lucky. I would say it was, I guess lucky that they were healthy.
It came together quicker than a lot of people thought it would.
Yeah, exactly. Because you remember they started like 20-2 or something that first year, and they just were unbeatable all year long. And then obviously they won 7 with the Lakers, but they won that series. The next year they're hot out of the gate again, and then towards the end of the year KG gets hurt, and then the third year they're great. They get back to the finals again, and they go to Game 7 with the Lakers. You could argue if they are healthy throughout those second and third years, they could have won 3 in a row. I mean, that's not out of the question at all. The only other team that was really competing with them was the Lakers, which they kind of flip-flopped with for titles.
Yeah.
But I got to say, love a good grudge match. I'm excited to see Rondo spouting off some more shit. That'll be an interesting whenever it gets back together for the actual anniversary sponsored by the team. This is one thing. This is just the boys organizing the trip and say, all right, kick rocks, Ray. But when the team does it, they're not going to leave Ray out. So that's going to be an awkward reunion for the team.
They'll just retire everybody else's number.
How many numbers do they have left?
Pretty soon we're going to be seeing triple digits.
Yeah. All right, well, anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up?
Still going to watch the NCAA tournament. Of course, brackets busted, but I guess that puts me with 90% of the country, so I'll stop pissing him off.
He'll be good.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We will rebuild. We'll be back next year.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to episode 6 of the 300s Podcast. We'll see you next time.